Hello and welcome to Halftime Report. I'm Sonal Bhutra and with me are Ekta Batra and Mangalam Malu. Hey guys, good afternoon. Well, for the markets, they're steady right now, but Nifty has fallen 80 points from the top and Bank Nifty too, though in the green, up around 47 odd points, is seeing some cuts from the top. But nevertheless, it is a steady session and look, it is something that we've seen for last couple of days. So yesterday as well, Nifty was down around 20 odd points and today again, we are seeing those moves. But a lot of stock-specific action is what we are seeing. But again, earnings season has come to an end finally.
Hi Sonal, hi Mangalam. Yes, absolutely. And there is less amount of data to reckon with. I think the next big cue that the markets will be watching is the RBI policy, which would be taking place between the 5th and the 7th of December. So the Reserve Bank of India is going to meet. We had the CPI data, which was the for the month of October, and that has softened to a sub 7% figure. So that's the big data point that the Reserve Bank of India will be dealing with. But the core CPI was still sticky at around 6 odd percent. We will be having data inflows from the US as well. But in terms of current expectations, it is the CPI data which we will reckon with. Nonetheless, for the markets and the equity markets at this point, quite quiet.
Lack of data, lack of any sort of triggers to hold on to, and that's
probably going to be the case till the 31st
till the end of this year. But
everyone's
let's hope
going to be
there
going
is a
on
Santa
holiday
Claus
now.
rally that takes place, right? We had a Diwali rally. Global markets, can we have that Santa Claus rally and be beneficiaries of that? Well, we will watch out for that. I mean, as we move towards the end of this year.
The average volumes are probably going to be lower than the Diwali rally when it comes to the Santa Claus
I guess so,
rally.
but
Everyone's on a holiday
everyone's on a holiday except for us.
yes.
The markets are kind of indecisive right now. It's in that 18,100 to 18,500 sort of limbo zone, not falling too much, not gaining too much as well. And the broader markets too have not decided to make their mind up right now because they're at an even keel for both the advances and declines. We have around 1,400 stocks advancing and a similar number of stocks declining as well. But a bunch of sectors doing extremely well. This afternoon we have the cement pack, which is buzzing around. So, case in point, Ultratech, we have ACC, Ambuja, India Cements. All of them are spiking, and that's primarily because post-monsoon, post-festive season, the street believes that there is case for increased cement demand. So let's see how that comes about. And also a lot of these construction stocks are doing well. NCC has moved to the high point of trade. We are seeing some gains come by for IRB Infra as well. So both these counters up around 5 odd percent. But let's talk about the last leg of result season, and we did have a few of them yesterday. ONGC rallying in trade today on account of higher than anticipated realization, Sona?
Yes, it's a top-down beat this time around for ONGC. If we look at the numbers, yes, it's a quarter-on-quarter decline, but despite that, the numbers have been so much better. Revenues at 38,320 crore rupees, which is a 3,000 crore rupees beat on the poll. EBITDA at 18,811 crore rupees, again a beat. Margins at 49% versus an estimate of 48.6%. Profits accordingly higher at 12,825 crore rupees. This beat definitely led by higher crude realizations. Realizations have come in at $94.96 per barrel, which is actually a 37% increase on a YY basis. We were working with a growth of around 7% on a YY basis. So that's a big beat, considering that crude oil prices were very volatile in the quarter gone by. Now, going forward, what we'll be watching out for is how crude prices really move. Yesterday, they were slipping. They were down around 3.5% overnight. But the trajectory going forward is very important to watch out for, and how the windfall tax revision takes place, because that is something which defines earnings for ONGC as well. So this time around, good set of numbers. But of course, going forward, these two things will be key to watch.
Okay, all right. So that's on ONGC. It's the top gainer on the Nifty. But the other one that we're tracking is IRCTC. That stock is under pressure on the back of what was a soft quarter. Mangalam, give us the fine print.
Well, no great shakes for IRCTC in this quarter. In fact, soft numbers quarter on quarter. Year on year, of course, the growth was led by a low base, and the recovery was led by non-ticketing businesses, which are not margin accretive. So as a result of which, we've seen the margins compress year on year as well. Quarter on quarter, a 5% decline on the revenues, a 5% decline on the EBITDAs have kept the margin stable. But, the net profits declined by about 8 odd percent. Now, if you just take a look at these numbers year on year, there's a 99% jump in their revenues. But despite that, the EBITDA has grown by only 44%. So that means margins, which were upwards of 50, 51 odd percent, have now come all the way down to 37%. Why is that? Well, because catering, which was, partially open same time last year, saw a revenue jump of 378 odd percent. 334 crores is what the company did in their catering business revenue. And catering is margin dilutive. Their catering expenses the same time last year were 28 odd crores, and now they've gone all the way up to 235 crores. ticketing business, which is the more margin, margin accretive business for them, was absolutely flat quarter on quarter, and year on year there was a jump 13 odd %. But be that as it may, we've seen a decline in Emami's performance on the business that has grown their margins. Talking about declined performances, we have Emami, which reported a muted set of second quarter numbers, and currently as we speak the stock is at the low point of trade. The margins contracted. EBITDA also declined on account of increased subsidiary costs, ad spends and distribution expansion. We do have with us NH Bansali, who's the CEO of Finance and Strategy of the company, joining in. Thanks a lot, Mr. Bansali. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Just wanted to understand, the first half is done. What is your winter offtake looking like? How was the third quarter? You did expect some sort of improvement come by. I mean, in light of that, what can you guide for in terms of full year revenues?
We expect the winter to be good, and the winter has started setting in. So we are very optimistic on the winter and also on the second half. We have delivered for the first half, despite the challenges, 10% growth for the first half, and we expect the year also to end up with around a double-digit growth in terms of the revenues.
Okay. All right. Sir, I just wanted your thoughts in terms of what the margin picture would now look like for the company. We just had the CPI data that was released yesterday. There was some amount of softening which has taken place in inflation. What is your sense in terms of where input costs stand for the company as a whole? What can you guide us in terms of margins probably in the in the second half, considering that you've done around 24% in Q2?
So the margins had contracted in the first half, but now I think they have more or less stabilized, except for the carryover inventories to very few. We do not expect the margin to reduce substantially from here. In fact, the whole year margin last year had been at around 30%, and we expect the second half to be very good. No further margin, substantial margin reduction is expected in the second half.
Okay, so no further margin reduction expected in the second half. On that note, can you give us a range? Will it be as per the last year's margins, or it'll be some improvement, say 100 to 200 basis points in the second half? And what role would ad spends take place in that regard? Because you have one of the highest in the industry. Will they continue to remain between 16.5% to 17%?
Yeah, we continue to remain buoyant on the offtakes in the second half, and so we would continue to remain invested on the marketing spends, and we expect that to be around that level as it was there in the previous year. And so EBITDA margin would also be in line with what was there in the previous year in the second half.
Right. So, in the conference call, you did mention that margins for this year would be around 27%. The first half, I'm looking at your revenues. Your revenue growth actually overall has been just 4%. So I don't know where that double-digit number you got from. And margins as well, 24.6%. Do you expect to do double-digit revenue growth in this year with 27% margins?
First, that the revenue growth of 4% is for the second quarter and not for the first half. What I said is a 10% growth for the first half. Right?
Okay, go ahead.
So, right. And the 27% margin is for the full year. Is expected for the full financial year.
Okay. I also wanted to speak to you about Dermicool integration. By when is that expected? Because it is the second half when true benefit from Dermicool will start kicking in for you. What kind of contribution will this portfolio make for your business?
Yeah, Dermicool integration, in fact, we were using the Rackets distribution till that, and now from this ensuing season it would get merged with our own distribution, and we expect around 3% to 4% kind of growth from the Dermicool.
Okay. So what might your cash on books be? I just want to understand whether or not you would be interested in such kind of strategic acquisitions in probably, in the second half of this fiscal going into next fiscal, because we've noticed a lot of interest in the OTC space specifically. It might be a portfolio of brands, it might be a specific brand. Would that be something on the cards for Emami? Further strategic acquisitions in the Indian space when it comes to the OTC market?
Yeah, very much. See, the three pillars of growth for us. One is growing the core. Growing the core, all the power brands, we are increasing our penetration further, and so that would help us grow our business, growing the core. Then we are always on the lookout for right acquisitions which has a synergistic benefits and which are a strong fit, kind of a Termicool, or in the past we did the Cash King or a Cream 21. Those kind of acquisitions would continue. And we also, third pillar is the investments. We have made investments in a few startups which has grown along in the last 3-4 years, kind of the main company. So that also that has become a subsidiary in this quarter, and so the cost of that company has also been debited in the EBITDA for the quarter, which you might have seen.
Right.
So,
we know that you have been acquisitive in nature in the past. You've brought some companies at the same time.
And would continue to be so.
Yes. You recently acquired Furball Story as well. Just wanted to understand, let's flip the question away from acquisition into divestment. There are a lot of non-core assets at the group level which you are looking to divest. There was the non-core land. There was the sale of AMRI to Manipal. I wanted to know how advanced are those stocks right now, and by when do they fructify?
So we are working on both processes. So this is a question which is pertinent to the group and not for the FMCG. But since you have asked, and at a group level also, we are divesting on, and it has nothing to do with Emami Limited per se.
Yes,
it does not impact Emami Limited.
The reason why it impacts Emami, sir, is because promoters still have 33% of their stake pledged, right? So we wanted to know by when does that come off. Mr. Goenka here on our channel had said that 30 to 45 days the Amri sale will complete, and after that the promoters pledge will come down substantially. So to that extent it would be important for us to ask, but just wanted to know an update on that.
Yeah, we still maintain that. We are very hopeful that the deals, we will be able to sell off some of the non-core assets, including hospital, and it would our pledge would reduce substantially. The pledge on the promoters' pledge of Emami shares would reduce substantially from here.
Okay, all right. We'll wait by for any kind of M&A which Emami is going to undertake. As of now, the stock is a little lower. Thanks, Mr. Bansali, for joining in and speaking to us and discussing your Q2 performance. The company confident in terms of margins at 27% for FY23 and would stay active on the M&A front. Well, we need to take a short break. On the other side, the management of KRBL. Stay tuned.
Countdown to the world's most prestigious accountancy professional event has begun. The 21st World Congress of Accountants is being organized from 18th to 21st November 2022 at Geo World Center, Mumbai, hosted by one of the largest accountancy bodies in the world, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. For the first time in 118 years, over 150 speakers, more than 6,000 delegates from over 100 countries on a single platform. Witness this mega conference. For details, visit icai.org.
तो मैडम, रात के 9:15 और 9:30 बजे के बीच में आपने बैंक अकाउंट खोल लिया, फ्लाइट बुकिंग कर ली, होटल रिजर्वेशन भी कर ली। अब आप बोलेंगी कि मैंने बाइसिकल भी खरीद ली।
क्या? मैं तो अपनी मम्मी के अंडमान्स जाने का सपना पूरा कर रही थी।
कैसे?
ऐसे।
Canara Bank presents AI1, the all-in-one banking super app, loaded with over 250 features for all your banking needs and more. आपके सपने हमारे अपने।
डार्लिंग, शिमला या ऊटी?
सीमेंट स्कूल तक कैसे पहुंचेगा?
योद्धा है ना?
टाटा योद्धा 2.0, जहां जमीन है वहां रास्ते हैं।
Dadu,
Yes?
what does premium mean?
Beta, premium you can say is like petrol. The car will keep going till the time it has petrol. Once petrol is over, the car stops.
But Dad, this time even if the petrol is over, our car won't stop.
How come?
With LIC's Jeevan Labh, even after the premium payment tenure is over, the policy's benefits continue.
That means our journey of happiness will continue non-stop.
LIC, हर पल आपके साथ।
लड़की होने का मतलब ये नहीं कि बंदिशों से दोस्ती कर लो। कामयाबी हौसला देखती है, जेंडर नहीं। इसलिए लाइफ तुम्हारी, रूल्स भी तुम्हारे।
सिग्नेचर ग्लोबल आपके इसी अंदाज को सल्यूट करता है। इंडिपेंडेंट फ्लोर्स फॉर द इंडिपेंडेंट यू।
I like it. Play it your way. Sarah, this is your space.
Play it your way.
Choose a better route and aim to stay ahead with HDFC Business Cycle Fund. NFO closes 25th November 2022. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Welcome back. Well, KRBL reported what was a strong set of earnings in Q2 with a beat on all parameters. The company's revenue was up 25% year-on-year, driven by exports. We have with us Ashish Jain, the CFO of the company, now joining in to discuss their Q2 performance. Mr. Jain, thank you very much for taking the time out. Just wanted to start with talking about the export revenue, which has jumped all the way to close to 600 odd crores versus around 289 crores year-on-year. What led to the growth, and what are you envisaging, say, on a quarterly run rate basis?
No, sure. So our export revenue benefited from restoration of our distribution in Saudi. So, we've appointed a new distributor as of January of this year. The partner there is scaling up. Our brand was already very strong in the Saudi market. So as supply returns to normal, the offtake is increasing. The other thing that we benefited from was growth in supply to the other key markets, which is UAE. So both of these things put together led to strong revenue growth. Now, on the export side, we continue to see build up on these trends. I think, some time back, we used to, our supplies to Saudi Arabia were far larger than what they are now. So we are hoping to get back to normal from a Saudi perspective, and other parts of the world also look very positive. So we have a strong view on exports going forward.
When you say strong, will you be able to continue the 600 crore rupees of quarterly run rate in the second half as well? Last year, you had done 1,500 to 1,600 crore rupees in terms of exports. What will number look like this year?
Yeah, sure. So we are hoping to do better than last year in exports for sure. In terms of quarterly trends, I mean, may not be exactly the same. It's difficult to predict. But for the year as a whole, we are hopeful to do far better than last year.
Right. Let's talk about the overall space then. For you, what was the absolute realization this quarter? And, what's the kind of inventory that you're sitting on currently?
Yeah. So, we don't share realization numbers separately, but I can confirm that in Basmati, the realization for the quarter was around 40% higher than the corresponding quarter last year. So as you know, rice prices have been building up. We've seen that trend coming through over the current and the preceding 2 quarters. So that trend is continuing. I think in terms of the total inventory, we are at about 2,800 crores. Now, we are currently in between the buying season where we stock up on paddy for rest of the year. So this number should go up.
Just wanted to understand, from an inventory standpoint itself, from a volume standpoint, what is your inventory? And the realization, if you could give us a rough range, if not the specific number. So to that extent, the street can, extrapolate what's the kind of, monetizable value that you're sitting on currently.
Yeah, I can confirm to you the inventory number. So our total rice inventory at the end of September, about 313,000 tons.
Okay. Mr. Jain, you've also picked up quite a significant amount of cash on books on a year-on-year basis, close to 1,600 crores. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you had mentioned that you would use it for expansion as well as stocking up on paddy. Just tell us what the utilization plans would be.
Sure. So, as we look at the current season, our paddy purchases are likely going to be larger than what it was last year. So we are looking at a total paddy purchase of about 3,000 or slightly upwards of 3,000 crores. So part of the funds that we have will go towards that. In addition to that, we have internal accruals to the tune of roughly 200 crores a month. So 1,600 plus another, 1,000 crores of internal accruals, and rest will meet by borrowing. So in short, current kitty will go towards both inventory as well as some expansion that we're doing.
Okay, inventory and some expansion plans. And last time you had mentioned that around 200 crore rupees, you will be spending that for setting up 3 plants. So what is the, does that get included in the plans that you just mentioned? And what is the update on that?
Sure. Yeah, that's right. So part of this kitty will also go into that expansion. So we are looking at setting up 3 plants. One in Gujarat, the construction is well underway, and we are hoping to go live with that by March 23. The second plant in Karnataka, the land acquisition formalities are underway. The third one, which is in MP, we are prospecting for land. So all these plants are as per schedule that we've announced earlier.
All right, we take that point. Thanks a lot for joining in, giving us all those views. That is the management of KRBL. With that, we'll step into a short break. On the other side, we'll get you more on the markets and individual stocks.
World Cup, the biggest show begins.
पता है मेरे शो की टिकट 100 में गई
और मेरी 250 में
हाँ, मेरी शो की 400 में
और मैसी तेरी
लाखों में होगी बॉस, लाखों में।
पर सिर्फ इस बार जियो सिनेमा पे
बिल्कुल फ्री। फुटबॉल वर्ल्ड कप 20 नवंबर से, इससे बड़ा कुछ नहीं। देखो सिर्फ जियो सिनेमा पे फ्री में।
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
थैंक यू अमित जी। जुग जुग जियो, जुग जुग जियो। खुश रहो, खुश रहो।
थैंक यू सो मच।
ओके ओके ओके। शादी भले ही वर्चुअल हो, थैंक गॉड मिठाई रियल है। बीका जी रसगुल्ला, अब बजेगा ढोल। अमित जी। हाँ जी। पीपी पीपी। शनाई। बीका जी गुलाब जामुन। पर आपने तो मिठाई खाना छोड़ दिया ना? हाँ यार, पर ये तो बीका जी है ना?
Amit ji loves Bikaji, loves Bikaji.
Odisha, the unstoppable force, welcomes you to highlight Odisha's emerging industrial aptitude. Our visionary leadership introduced an inspired idea, the Make in Odisha Conclave. Odisha is ready to enthrall you all over again. Align with the growth ideas from thought leaders, finding ways to explore the zenith and beyond, showcasing skills, encouraging startups, enhancing women-led entrepreneurship, developing our designated key focus sectors, celebrating culture like never before. We are ready for us.
I invite you all to the Make in Odisha Conclave. Come join the juggernaut.
2 साल में रेट रॉकेट 100%।
क्या भाई साहब? Get सही price trends at 99acres.com. घर लेना हो या बेचना, एक्सपर्ट से ही पूछना। 99acres.com.
$18,300, that's where we are on the Nifty. In fact, that's what we saw in terms of a level around which we were meandering around in yesterday's trading session as well. And it turns out that that will be the level that the smart money is positioning itself for as well. Yesterday, the most active options were the 18,300 call and the 18,300 put. And today, again, that is the trade that is playing out. As we see the 18,300 call seeing almost 50 lakh shares being added in open interest, 38 lakh shares being added on the 18,300 put as well. Like we said, it is the 18,300 call and put, a straddle which people look to sell into for the weekly options expiry. And together, this straddle is currently now trading at 150 odd rupees. So what this means is that the range that the street was working with yesterday, which was 18,100 to 18,500, has now narrowed by 50 points on both sides. 18,150 at the lower end to 18,450 at the higher end is what the street is working with this time around. So let's see where we go. We have 2 days to the weekly options expiry with 18,300 on the Nifty as the fulcrum. So that was about the cues coming in from the F&O space at this noon. We'll slip into a short break. On the other side, We'll get you more on management conversation, an exclusive conversation that we had with Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw of Biocon.
Countdown to the world's most prestigious accountancy professional event has begun. The 21st World Congress of Accountants is being organized from 18th to 21st November 2022 at Geo World Center, Mumbai, hosted by one of the largest accountancy bodies in the world, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. For the first time in 118 years, over 150 speakers, more than 6,000 delegates from over 100 countries on a single platform. Witness this mega conference. For details, visit icai.org.
आज ध्रुव के स्कूल से फोन आया, कहने लगे कि फीस भरो वरना कल से स्कूल आना बंद। क्या कहती हूँ कि बाप की गैर जिम्मेदारी की सजा बेटे को मत दो। तुम तो टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस लिए बिना ही चले गए।
policybazaar.com पे 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 430 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
Who said the markets can't be exciting? Who? Get the lowdown on the yays and nays. Straight from the top, catch market feels and news reels. Number crunch for the best of the bunch. The bigger Q for the richer you. Hot trends, big noise, what's viral and what's out. We'll give you the market goals you need to stay ahead. Mad about markets at these times.
Hurry! Will snow days be a thing of the past? Or are we smarter than that?
Presenting the next challenge between two animals.
Who seems faster amongst the two? Then why place all your bets on the elephant? Similarly in investments, horses are like smaller companies. Even with ups and downs in the journey, they can run faster than the elephant like big companies and show higher potential. Along with investing in the horse, what if you also get tax savings? That's right. Introducing Samco ELSS Tax Saver Fund that aims to create wealth for you by investing in high-quality small and mid-sized Indian companies and also helps you save tax with ELSS. Invest today. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Welcome back. Well, it's definitely a very quiet day for the markets. There's really nothing happening at this point in time. The bank Nifty is just about holding its head above the water, up around 0.2%. A lot of specific stocks are in focus, and one such stock is Biocon, which released its numbers late last evening. It's an interesting mixed set of numbers because the revenue did well. It was up 26% on a year-on-year basis, but the margins came down to around 20.3% versus expectations of around 21.5%, and that was because of higher R&D expenditure. Profit also was lower because of a higher tax outflow. Now, interestingly, what stood out in this quarter's numbers was that they are looking to close the Viatris deal, where they're looking to buy the global biosimilar business. It is expected to conclude soon. And for the equity component, Biocon has raised $150 million from Serum. So Serum will eventually hold around 12% stake. A couple of triggers going forward would be possibly looking to, replace the mezzanine funding of over $400 million, which Biocon is also doing in order to complete the acquisition of Viatris. But in fact, I did catch up with Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. Let's listen in to what she had to say on the company.
We are at a very crucial stage of the Viatris acquisition. And I think the way we're looking at it is that we would like to close the deal ASAP since we've got the necessary regulatory permissions to go ahead with this deal. So the first thing we are focusing on is really about closing this transaction, which will involve a payment of $2 billion and of course $1 billion worth of stock to Viatris. Now, in order to fund the $2 billion that are payable to Viatris on closing the deal, we have basically addressed this and we have shared this in public domain that we would do this through an $800 million equity raise and a $1.2 billion debt financing. Now, we've put in place the 1.2 billion debt, we've arranged for that, and the 800 million is coming through a combination of mezzanine financing as well as equity investment, which you just alluded to, which includes 150 million coming from basically Serum, and the remaining 650 million coming from Biocon. Biocon itself is putting in 230 million through its own reserves, which included, the Syngene stake sale of $150 million. And the balance will actually come through mezzanine financing, which also will then be basically funded through equity and other means to basically make good this mezzanine financing. So I think all in all, we are in a good shape. This will basically take, on a diluted basis, Serum is expected to get around close to 12% of a stake in Biocon Biologics. Biocon itself will have a 68% stake at the end of this round. And as you know, Viatris has a 12.9% minimum stake in Biocon Biologics.
It's over $400 million of mezzanine financing. What is the collateral? And when you say that it will probably be replaced by PE investors, what is the timeline of replacement? Are you already in talks? And will a possible further stake sale in Syngene be on the cards?
Well, certainly we are looking at all avenues. Of course, there is a huge amount of interest from PE investors in Biocon Biologics. We will be looking at even possible further stake sale in Syngene if that is required. But all in all, I think we're looking at various options to basically take care of the mezzanine financing and beyond. We are not averse to reducing debt even further. And there is a huge amount of PE interest in Biocon Biologics because I think this is a unique stock which is very well positioned for high growth. And as you know, the Biocon Biologics business, once you combine it with Viatris and the Serum Institute Alliance, is a very attractive and uniquely differentiated business with few parallels.
Sure. Viatris, one of the key concerns, in fact, has been that the guidance has probably been a little below expectations or the ability to meet their guidance. They've guided for around $875 million in CY22 and currently they've done over $500 million or thereabout. So is there a fear that this guidance in terms of revenue probably might not be met and there could be a possible negotiation on the valuations of the deal?
Let me put it into the right context. Ekta, if you recall, this quarter they have actually delivered $185 million of sales for this quarter, which is sort of basically tracking close to the $800 million kind of levels. They have been impacted by the euro depreciation. Otherwise, they could have been over $200 million this quarter. But having said that, I think we are very confident looking at the way the numbers are tracking that next fiscal, which is where they've guided to sort of $1 billion top line and roughly 200 and plus EBITDA, I think is absolutely doable, which is what we are really focused on, and which is how the valuation of the deal was basically drawn up. So I don't think we have concerns around that because the numbers are tracking in the right direction. I think Glargine itself is showing a very strong uptick. New prescriptions are tracking at around 14% market share. The current market share of Glargine biosimilar Glargine is in the 12% market share range. So I think all in all, we are quite confident that there might have been a sort of a quarter catch up, but I think it's all tracking in the right direction.
Sure.
We're seeing a lot of companies signing up for Glargine. And I think overall, we are very confident that given that we've got Glargine, trastuzumab picking up, pegfilgrastim picking up, and crossing the 10% market share mark, I think all augurs well for us as we move into this year.
Can you tell us the latest with regards to insulin aspart? You have received a complete response letter from the US FDA, and separately the update with regards to the US FDA inspection on your Bangalore site as well as your Malaysia facility.
So basically, Ekta, if I may put it into the right context, I think the CRL alludes to the addressing the inspection 483s, which we have through a CAPA. I think the CAPA needs to be reviewed. The agency has asked us to basically seek a meeting with them so that they basically tell us exactly what they require for approval. So we believe that once we have this meeting, we will have much greater clarity in the timelines of aspart approval. As far as bevacizumab is concerned, we still haven't heard from the agency in terms of the approval of bevacizumab. The Bangalore site inspection for bevacizumab did not throw up any major observations. And so we believe that we should have approval for both bevacizumab in the near term, and aspart we hope will happen expeditiously as well. But we don't want to comment on these two till we really understand from FDA what they are seeking.
Okay, in terms of margins, you had R&D expenditure which rose quite significantly year on year. You did margins on a blended basis of around 20% It was impacted by a higher amount of R&D costs. What are you guiding for in the second half?
Obviously it will normalize to the 12 to 15% levels once we combine the businesses. So I don't want to really, comment on the kind of guidance as yet. But suffice to say that at this point in time, yes, it is at 18% of BBL revenues. And you can see that we've had a huge uptick in R&D spends. But that also augurs well for the pipeline because, as you know, these two assets, ustekinumab and denosumab, which is what is accounting for this strong surge in R&D spend, has also been licensed in Japan to Yoshindo, which we just declared. And I think this is something that tells you about how good these two assets are for the business.
All right, that's the word coming in from Biocon. The stock, though, is down around 1.2% in the red today. Right now, we'll slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll put focus on Lupin and Aurobindo Pharma. They are on our radar today. Stay tuned.
FIFA World Cup, the biggest show begins.
पता है मेरे शो की टिकट 100 में गई
और मेरी 250 में।
हाँ, मेरी शो की 400 में।
और मैसी तेरी
लाखों में होगी बॉस, लाखों में। पर सिर्फ इस बार जियो सिनेमा पे बिल्कुल फ्री।
फुटबॉल वर्ल्ड कप 20 नवंबर से, इससे बड़ा कुछ नहीं। देखो सिर्फ जियो सिनेमा पे फ्री में।
जब दोस्त इंजीनियरिंग और मेडिकल की लाइन में लग रहे थे तो मैंने फैशन डिजाइनिंग की राह पकड़ ली। फैमिली ने कहा, दर्जी बनोगे क्या? अब दर्जी ही सही, बनूंगा अपनी मर्जी से।
सिग्नेचर ग्लोबल आपके इसी अंदाज को सल्यूट करता है। इंडिपेंडेंट फ्लोर्स फॉर द इंडिपेंडेंट यू।
Odisha, the unstoppable force, welcomes you to highlight Odisha's emerging industrial aptitude. Our visionary leadership introduced an inspired idea, the Make in Odisha Conclave. Odisha is ready to enthrall you all over again. Align with the growth ideas from thought leaders, finding ways to explore the zenith and beyond, showcasing skills, encouraging startups, enhancing women-led entrepreneurship, developing our designated key focus sectors, celebrating culture like never before. We are ready for us.
I invite you all to the Make in Odisha Conclave. Come join the juggernaut.
To make my vision a reality, I have to see clearly from every point of view. With my Verilux progressive lenses, I seamlessly transition from near to far and see every detail in sharp focus. When you see no limits, there are no limits. Verilux lenses by Essilor.
Do we have to wait years for a cure?
Hey, Mommy, can we go make some pancakes?
Yeah, let's go. Or are we smarter than that?
Welcome back. Well, absolutely flat for the markets. There is some recovery from the lows. So Nifty is just up around 2 odd points. The Bank Nifty is the one which is seeing some gains. That is up around 140 points. In the broader markets, we have stocks like NTPC, Samvardhan Motherson, HCL Tech, HDFC Bank, not broader markets actually, the Nifty pack which are at the day's high. So some buying seen in some names in the Nifty 50 as we speak. But we do have pharma names in focus because sources are telling CNBC-TV18 that US FDA is inspecting the facilities of Lupin and Aurobindo Pharma. Ekta, tell us more.
Well, yes, you know, it is going to be a busy season when it comes to the US FDA up to December. That's when they go on Christmas break. So we would probably see heightened activity from the US drug regulators. Now, the Mandideep facility for Lupin, and that's what sources are telling me, the US FDA has begun an inspection there. Remember that this particular facility has been in focus because it was issued a warning letter in 2019 from the US drug regulator. It's not expected to be that much in terms of a contributor when it comes to sales, but it would be an important inspection to track simply because of the regulatory overhang that Lupin has had recently. For example, one of their facilities, the Tarapur facility, was under the regulatory scanner. Separately, we did have their Pune biotech facility, which received over 15 observations. So that would be something to track in terms of Mandideep. The company did not have any comment on this particular story. Aurobindo, their Unit 9, we do understand, is currently getting inspected by the US FDA. It began last week. This too is important because it had an official action indicated status, which means that it increases the possibility of any kind of regulatory steps from the US drug regulator on the adverse side. So this particular unit manufactures intermediates. And separately, Aurobindo, there's been a lot of buzz on their Unit 11 because the US FDA website has updated their status on it. They have to classify a site as official action indicated, voluntary action indicated within 90 days of the inspection. So according to the US FDA website, it is VAI, which is the best indication that you can get from the US FDA, and that would be positive considering that they had a warning letter issued to this plant in 2019. The company, according to sources, has not received any communication from the US FDA. So as of now, there's no official communication on this front, but this is something that the street will probably be tracking at this point.
All right, what the street will also be tracking is the way the Nifty Bank has spiked from the lows, and that's courtesy HDFC Bank. In fact, the Nifty itself moved into the green briefly, and that's on account of HDFC Bank and HDFC Limited. Remember, these two stocks have been big movers ever since Friday. They've been top contributors to the way up on the Nifty itself. So let's see what happens in the second half, particularly on these two counters. But let's get in some exclusive opinion coming in from market veteran Ramesh Damani as well on the PSU players, the defense opportunity. what he likes in that.
Just when I started the Wizard show for the first time, I used to buy Bharat Electronics. It was a 20 rupee stock with a 2 rupee dividend built in, 160 crore market cap. It's 60,000 crores today. And I think it can go perhaps double from these prices too. So I mean, it's created long-term wealth. The mistake people make often is to bunch FMCG stocks versus all PSU stocks. These are all in disparate companies. There are some commodity stocks, there's some power stocks, and some defense stocks. So you need to learn how to pick the sector in the PSU that you're bullish on. I think the mistake a lot of analysts make is lumping them all together. So obviously you're going to come out with disappointing results. What if I bunched Himachal and Global and all those bad consumer stocks along with the levers and the Dowers of the world? Your returns wouldn't be that great. So I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall into. And these are good stocks, these are great businesses. The government, if you hear the Prime Minister speak or the Railway Minister speak, they're going to use the railway and the railway budget as a blunt axe for capital expansion. You know, they're just going whole hog on these places. They're going whole hog on defense. I mean, for example, let me give you an example on defense and why it matters to India. The US produces 150 million artillery shells in a year. That's what Ukraine uses in a couple of weeks. So there's a huge shortage of defense equipment. And here these companies are already producing equipment and threatening to do more so by Atmanirbhar Bharat going more domestic source. So there's a great opportunity. They have good order books. They have excellent technological skills. And we are buying them literally, as I said, rupee ki cheez chavanni mein, not even athandi mein. So, you know, we're very confident about the play out in these sectors. A lot of what's happening in India excites me. And the reason for that is by just a freak of coincidence. We're at the right place at the right time.
All right, interesting conversation there. Snippets of that. In fact, the entire show and the all-new season of Wizards you can catch from November 21st onwards, only on CNBC-TV18. A bunch of interesting guests and incredible conversation out there.
Countdown to the world's most prestigious accountancy professional event has begun. The 21st World Congress of Accountants is being organized from 18th to 21st November 2022 at Geo World Center, Mumbai, hosted by one of the largest accountancy bodies in the world, the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. For the first time in 118 years, over 150 speakers, more than 6,000 delegates from over 100 countries on a single platform. Witness this mega conference. For details, visit icai.org.
आग को फैलने से रोकना मुश्किल है पर नामुमकिन नहीं। अब फायरवॉल टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ सेंचुरी प्लाई क्लब प्राइम आग से बचाए।
To make my vision a reality, I have to see clearly from every point of view. With my Verilux progressive lenses, I seamlessly transition from near to far and see every detail in sharp focus. When you see no limits, there are no limits. Verilux lenses by Essilor.
We all have something deep within us, something that's worth gold. So go ahead, show your grit, and celebrate your essence with gold. You are precious. You are bold. You are gold.
याद है पापा जी के रिटायरमेंट एफडी? आज उसे तोड़ने जा रहे हैं। उन्हें रोकते भी तो कैसे? घर भी तो चलाना है। और तुम तो टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस लिए बिना ही चले गए।
policybazaar.com पे 1 करोड़ का टर्म लाइफ इंश्योरेंस सिर्फ 430 रुपए महीने से शुरू।
Can someone working alone solve all the world's biggest challenges? Isn't collaboration the way we'll bring clean water to the world's megacities and produce enough food for a growing population? At SABIC, we believe the chemistry between people is the chemistry that matters. SABIC.
The last hour. Anything can happen between the bells. But what happens during the last hour is what matters the most. The biggest market swings. A close-up look at what's driving them and how the investors are reacting. Watch the most seasoned market mavens guide you through the most important hour of the trading day. NSE Closing Bell. At these times, only on CNBC-TV18 and CNBC-TV18.com.
Powered by LIC. हर पल आपके साथ.
Welcome back. Joining us on the show now is Jonathan Bharat, CEO at Probus Securities. Jonathan, hi, good to have you. You know, I want to talk about the crude oil prices, and overnight we've seen yet another big fall coming in. It has been a range that crude really seems to be maintaining. 91 on the lower side, 98 on the higher side is how last couple of weeks have been. It's a big range, but how are you reading the latest from China in sense of their COVID restrictions and data? That's the first question.
No problems at all. Good morning. Manisha, look, I think when you look at the Chinese data, a little bit on the weak side, IP came out not as positive, retail sales not as positive. I do think it all comes down to that COVID issue, whether or not China will relax some of its policies. But whilst it's there and whilst it's so tight and the chances of lockdowns are there, people are going to say that COVID is no good for China's economy. And as a result of that, we're seeing pressure on the crude prices, So generally speaking there, if it's not happening in China, then people are going to take it out in the crude market. And I think from here, perhaps back to that 91, 90, but whether it goes from lower than that is another thing.
The other thing is the OPEC report that came in yesterday, where they already are producing less in the month of October, and they have talked about on how the last couple of quarters actually were the surplus that the global market saw. What's your sense on what could happen in November now?
Look, I think that's how OPEC have generally played it. Remember, they have reduced their call for the fifth straight time in a row, where they're saying there's just not going to be that demand there. And as a result of that, that gives us a weak overview. I generally think that the sense is that obviously things in China, obviously things in interest rates, economic slowdowns are out there. So I think OPEC are playing it to the fact that the outlook's going to be weaker, in the next month or two, and I think prices as a result of that will remain sort of under pressure. I can actually see it sort of continuing to trend lower. I guess the key takeout will be whether or not the US dollar will provide some support for the crude, naturally because it's priced in US dollars, and a weaker currency will support it.
Oh, absolutely. The other point really is about Ukraine as well. This is a statement that I've been hearing in media publications. I mean, maybe you can allude to that the war is at the fag end now. I mean, even if it doesn't end, there's not so much of uncertainty or not, anything, a big or a major development perhaps is something that can be avoided from here on. Does that give any support to crude going forward?
Oh, look, I think it does. I think it's more not so much the crude market, but the natural gas market. I think the market's behaved in a way where it's actually sort of getting a sense that we have supply. I do feel concerned about the supply of natural gas, but into the market, every time we get some form of winter or winter forecasts, more demand comes to the market, and natural gas will support itself. I actually think natural gas around that 6 BTU is a very good buy, and probably see it head to that US $7 BTU. So when I look at the energy play there, how's the Ukraine playing out? I think it's got more to do with how it'll affect the natural gas market because of China, but not so much the dynamics of the global crude market.
Well, the wild card clearly is going to be the sanctions going forward, isn't it? With the European Union talking about it and US talking about, or G20 talking about a price cap as well. How possible, how valid do you see that?
Look, I think it's valid. I just think also, I think it's fair to say if the NATO and Ukraine get the upper hand, people will see where it'll all go, and then there won't perhaps need for a price cap. But I think it's something that they've all got to look at, because naturally, if they don't have that cap, we have those inflationary concerns that'll filter through all the economies. That is obviously the major agenda at the moment. And when you look at some of the rhetoric coming from the Fed, although we're seeing things soften, although we're seeing about an 80% chance that rates will only move up by 50%, remember that's just one piece of data in the overall scheme. So in my mind, I think it's just let's really see whether that cap will come in. I would think that they would err with caution to put it in.
Okay. And, even in the Asian markets, even as China is a bit of a wild card, the Indian demand for the month of October has been quite strong. India is importing as well at discounted prices, earlier from Iran, now from Russia as well. One, how do you look at the Indian demand now? And second, in the light of all that we discussed, where do you see the crude prices ranging within by the end of this year?
I think it's a positive for India. I think India's in a good position, where she can trade with the likes of Iran and Russia, and they are getting a discount. So I think that will actually flow through to the general market in terms of returns. Other economies are certainly battling with higher prices. So I think that's an advantage, which will certainly bode well for India. I think when I see the prices, I agree with your range. 90 is on the downside there. I think that is very good support. I think if China does not relax any of its COVID policies, then I think you can go below that $90 on the Brent oil.
All right. So much will really depend on China. That is one thing to look forward. And there's various other things to take cues from as well. It's going to be a volatile last quarter of 2022. At least that's how it promises. Jonathan, as always, thank you so much for joining us with that sense on energy as markets. But with that, that's all the time that we have on Halftime Report. Business Lunch will take all the action forward.
Brought to you by LIC, हर पल आपके साथ।